In this episode, we continue the cryptography thread by focusing on three practices that keep encryption from becoming brittle over time: rotating keys, managing escrow, and revoking safely. New learners sometimes think encryption is a one-and-done decision, like flipping a switch and never touching it again. But encryption keys live in a world where software changes, people change roles, threats evolve, and accidents happen. Rotation is the planned replacement of keys so that secrets do not remain static forever. Escrow is the controlled ability to recover keys when legitimate business continuity demands it. And revocation is the ability to stop trusting a key or certificate when it might be compromised or no longer appropriate. These three practices sound administrative, but they are actually the difference between cryptography that protects you and cryptography that traps you, either by failing during an outage or by remaining vulnerable after a compromise. In payment environments, keys protect sensitive data, support trusted communications, and underpin integrity controls, so mistakes can have both security impact and operational impact. By the end, you should be able to explain why keys must change, how escrow can be safe instead of risky, and what it means to revoke in a way that is fast, controlled, and evidence-based. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A useful starting point is understanding why keys should not last forever, even if they were generated correctly and stored securely. Every day a key exists is another day it could be exposed through human error, system compromise, backup mishandling, or accidental logging, and long-lived secrets tend to accumulate risk in quiet, unseen ways. Cryptographic standards also evolve, meaning that what was considered strong years ago may become less safe as computing power increases and new attacks are discovered. Beginners should also recognize that environments change, and keys that were appropriate for one system design might become inappropriate after migrations, new integrations, or changes in where data flows. Rotation reduces these risks by limiting the lifetime exposure window, so that even if a key is compromised, the damage is bounded by time and by what the key can access. Rotation also supports hygiene, because regular key replacement forces teams to keep their key management processes healthy rather than letting them rust until an emergency. In other words, rotation is preventative maintenance for cryptography, and like other maintenance, it is most valuable when it is routine rather than reactive. Key rotation can sound simple, but it becomes complex quickly because keys are often tied to data and to relationships between systems. If a key is used to encrypt stored data, you cannot simply throw it away without ensuring the data can still be decrypted when needed. If a certificate key is used to establish trust for secure communications, rotating it changes what clients must trust and can break connections if done carelessly. Beginners should notice that rotation therefore requires planning and sequencing, such as introducing a new key, ensuring systems can use it, and then retiring the old key only after it is no longer needed. Many systems support a period where both old and new keys can be used, which is sometimes called a transition period, and that transition is essential for avoiding outages. Rotation also requires clarity about what is being rotated, because there can be multiple layers, like a master key that protects other keys and data keys that protect the data itself. A well-run rotation program defines these layers and rotates them according to risk and operational needs. The term escrow can feel uncomfortable to beginners because it sounds like storing secrets in a way that increases the chance of theft, and that concern is valid if escrow is poorly designed. Key escrow means storing a copy of a key or the ability to recover a key under controlled conditions, usually to support business continuity, legal obligations, or recovery from key loss. The point is not to make keys easy to retrieve. The point is to prevent a scenario where critical data becomes permanently inaccessible because a key was lost or a system failed. Beginners should recognize that escrow is a trade-off between availability and confidentiality, and governance exists to make that trade-off as safe as possible. Escrow must be tightly controlled, protected by strong access restrictions, and operated under procedures like dual control so that no single person can retrieve escrowed keys alone. When escrow is governed well, it is like a vault with strict policies, not like a drawer with spare keys. The goal is to make recovery possible without making theft easy. Managing escrow safely begins with deciding what should be escrowed and what should not, because not every key deserves or needs the same recovery path. Some keys protect highly sensitive data and should have very strict recovery requirements, while others might be less sensitive and can be managed with simpler controls. Beginners should learn that escrow should never be an informal practice, such as copying keys into a shared document for convenience, because that creates uncontrolled copies and destroys auditability. Safe escrow typically involves storing keys in hardened systems designed for key management and ensuring that retrieval actions are logged, reviewed, and limited. It also includes protecting escrow backups from deletion or tampering, because if escrow is the last resort recovery mechanism, it must remain intact even during attacks that target backup systems. Another important point is testing escrow processes in a controlled way, because an untested recovery plan can fail at the worst possible moment. Effective escrow is therefore not only secure storage, it is secure storage plus a practiced, audited recovery workflow that works under pressure. Revocation is the lifecycle practice that deals with distrust, and it is needed because sometimes you cannot assume a key remains safe. A key might be exposed through compromise, a certificate might be misissued, an employee might leave under suspicious circumstances, or a system might be retired and should no longer be trusted. Revocation means declaring that the key or certificate should no longer be used and ensuring systems stop accepting it. Beginners should notice that revocation is not just deleting a file on one server, because trust often exists in multiple places, such as clients, services, and security devices that rely on the key. This is why revocation needs process and speed, because the longer a potentially compromised key remains valid, the longer an attacker can misuse it. Safe revocation also includes planning how to replace the revoked key quickly so services keep functioning, because security actions that cause extended outages can create pressure to roll back or ignore controls. A mature program treats revocation as a rehearsed capability, not as an improvised emergency. A key challenge in rotation and revocation is maintaining continuity for systems that must remain available, especially payment systems where downtime can be expensive and disruptive. Beginners should understand that the most dangerous situations are those where security and availability appear to be in conflict, because that is where shortcuts are most tempting. If key rotation is planned, you can schedule it during maintenance windows, validate behavior in advance, and avoid chaos. If revocation is required suddenly, you need a prepared rapid replacement process so that the environment can move to new keys quickly without losing the ability to process transactions or access required data. This is where having standardized procedures, clear ownership, and automation support can make a huge difference, because it reduces the number of manual steps that can go wrong under stress. The governance mindset is to treat continuity as part of the cryptographic lifecycle, not as a separate operational concern that is handled after the fact. When continuity is designed in, security actions can be both decisive and stable. Another critical idea is documentation and evidence, because key lifecycle actions must be defensible and verifiable. Rotation schedules, escrow policies, and revocation procedures should be documented clearly so people know what is expected before a crisis occurs. Evidence should show when rotations occurred, who approved them, what systems were affected, and whether the transition succeeded. Escrow access should be recorded with strict audit logs, including who initiated recovery, who approved it, and what key material was recovered. Revocation actions should also be logged, including why revocation was required, what replacement was deployed, and how trust relationships were updated. Beginners should understand that evidence is not only for audits, it is for operational confidence, because in complex environments you need a trustworthy record to explain why something changed and how to verify it is now safe. Without evidence, teams can get stuck arguing about what happened during a key event, which delays recovery and increases risk. A disciplined evidence trail turns key management into a controllable process rather than a set of mysteries. There is also a subtle security benefit to routine rotation that beginners sometimes miss. It reduces dependency on any single secret and forces better system design. When teams know keys will rotate, they build systems that can handle change, such as supporting multiple active keys during transitions and avoiding hard-coded secrets. This makes the environment more resilient not only to key compromise, but also to normal operational events like certificate expiration. Routine rotation also discourages dangerous behaviors like copying keys into multiple places just in case, because a robust rotation and escrow plan provides a safer safety net. Another benefit is that rotation creates natural checkpoints for reviewing cryptographic configurations, such as verifying that secure settings remain in place and that old weak protocols are not being used. Over time, these checkpoints become opportunities to improve rather than merely to maintain. Beginners should see that lifecycle governance is not just about preventing bad outcomes. It is also about shaping better habits and architectures that make security easier to sustain. Escrow must be handled with special care because it is both a continuity tool and a potential single point of catastrophic compromise if mismanaged. A well-governed escrow system minimizes who can access it, requires dual control for retrieval, and keeps recovered keys under strict handling rules so they are not casually copied or stored. It also defines the conditions under which escrow is permitted, because escrow should not become a convenience feature used to bypass normal key management discipline. Beginners should connect this to separation of duties, because the person requesting escrow retrieval should not be able to approve it alone, and the person who retrieves it should not be the same person who audits it. Another important aspect is ensuring escrow materials are protected against insider threats, because insiders often have the best opportunity to misuse recovery mechanisms. Strict governance and monitoring are what turn escrow from a risk into a controlled capability. When escrow is managed correctly, it supports resilience without sacrificing the integrity of the encryption program. Revocation also needs careful communication and coordination because trust relationships can span many systems, teams, and even external partners. If a certificate used for secure communications is revoked, clients must be updated, services must be redeployed, and integrations must be confirmed, or else legitimate traffic will fail. Beginners should understand that revocation is a security action with operational consequences, which is why it must be executed with a clear plan and strong ownership. Revocation should also be paired with incident assessment, meaning you investigate how the key might have been compromised, what data or systems might be affected, and what additional remediation is needed. Revoking the key stops future misuse, but it does not automatically undo past exposure. So you need a broader response that matches the suspected impact. This is where logging, monitoring, and forensic readiness become essential, because they provide clues about whether a key was actually abused and what actions were taken with it. Safe revocation, therefore, includes both technical steps and investigative steps, tied together by disciplined process. As we close, keep the lifecycle picture in mind, because rotation, escrow, and revocation are not separate topics. They are three linked controls that keep cryptography healthy over time. Rotation limits exposure by replacing keys on a planned schedule and by ensuring systems can transition without chaos. Escrow preserves availability by enabling controlled recovery when keys would otherwise be lost, while governance and dual control keep that recovery from turning into easy theft. Revocation provides a rapid response mechanism when trust is broken or suspected to be broken, ensuring compromised keys stop being accepted and replacements take over quickly. In payment environments, where cryptography supports confidentiality, integrity, and trust, these practices prevent encryption from becoming either a fragile dependency or a false comfort. When the lifecycle is governed with clear roles, strong evidence, and practiced procedures, cryptography becomes a reliable defense that can withstand both everyday change and unexpected incidents. That is the difference between having encryption and actually operating encryption safely.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.